we're back to another episode of Down Bad Podcast, where we interview, people that have been through the both bear and bull market. And today we have Kenzi from Symbolic Capital and Beacon Accelerator. Yeah, Kenzi, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Down Bad Podcast. An honor to be here. I'm Kenzi. I'm co-founder and managing director of Symbolic Capital. We're a early stage VC firm based out of New York City. And previously I was VP at Huobi, which is a global crypto exchange, and also co-founded a company out of Binance Labs. And currently we're looking at early stage opportunities. I'm also a core contributor at Beacon Accelerator, which is a early stage Web3 accelerator, working with early stage founders in a global sense, and excited to be here.
All right. So, tell us a little bit about your time at Huobi. Obviously, I remember back in 2017, Huobi was considered, one of the top 3 exchanges. And, and earlier you're telling me about, kind of taking care of global market, all the way from operation to listing. Yeah. Do you have any story there?
Oh yeah, totally. That was a incredible time to be working at Huobi at its prime time. That was 17, 18. Huobi was one of the biggest exchanges in the global market. So it's great to see a Chinese operated exchange as a Chinese origin personnel here, to see how they were able to quickly gain market share in such a big fashion. And that was also one of my initial gigs at in the crypto market, as a Web2 turned Web3 entrepreneur, to learn how things actually got baked. So be able to see how exchange operations, listing, and also corp devs work at a global exchange. It was a tremendous learning experience to know how, how to evaluate projects, and also how to work with, founders and also other exchange execs on, the listing process, the market making know-hows, how liquidity works, as well as, being part of some of the acquisitions in the market and dealing with some big names. When I was at Huobi, it was essentially a proper induction of education to see how things work at a very high level, to see how the sausage is made, and also, being able to kind of be at a position where, it's at the time, Huobi was when they talk about the landscape at the time, Huobi was almost like the Binance now. It's at the top of the food chain. So we were able to see things moving at a very high velocity and dealing with things that about to break news at the closest range at that time. So it's an incredibly exciting and also fulfilling learning experience.
And that was before Binance, right?
That was before Binance, got big. And even when Binance became more of a prominent player, Huobi was right up there and competing at the highest, capacity. Okay. And that's also when Huobi had over 1,000 employees, and they had the exchange volume was on par with Binance for a long time, and it's at the forefront of the battlefield at that time.
And what were some token that that you helped listed, or the ones that you remember the most?
Oh man, that was there's those coins. At the time, as you know, it was a very different time. Yeah. So probably best not to bring it up because in this cycle, they're not as relevant. It was a lot of the top, projects back in the day.
Yeah.
But now they're insignificant. So if we talk about it now, they may bring up some memories from before.
I mean, I remember that was during the time where, staking and locking or vesting wasn't really a thing.
No, there was no DeFi at that time.
Yeah.
And it was all just layer ones and infrastructure projects.
Yeah. And then investors getting unlocked immediately and then kind of just waiting like hawks, waiting for whatever exchange these tokens get on. And then people really just have two options, right? Either hold the token or sell them.
Yeah, that's those were the wild days, and rule books were written and rewritten almost every month, every week sometimes. And it was there was these philosophies back in the day where the token sold in the private sale stage should be less than 50%. When nowadays we're talking about 10-20% sold into the market with a lockup. And back in the day, it was as long as you sell less than 50% of tokens, and they're all unlocked.
Oh my God.
So imagine you have this, new bank coin that's, on the market now, and 50% was to the community, right? But back in the day, all of those would not be airdropped to the community, would just be on the market right away.
Yeah.
And still, because there was only like one project per month or something like that.
There are way less tokens.
Way less available projects out there in the market.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, they will still go up like crazy.
Yeah.
It was the demand really outweighed the supply out there. So it's very refreshing and also a kind of a Wild West at that.
Yeah. I mean, it was an interesting time because all these token, and a lot of them are around these days, and some early projects, that were talking about becoming kind of the Bitcoin competitor or the
Ethereum competitor, Ethereum killers. There's like 20 of them.
Yeah. And then none of them and when now look back, some of them are still around, and instead of becoming an Ethereum competitor, they just launched an EVM fork of their own and then calling it like the ETH killer. But still, I think every cycle of the bull market, people go crazy about these narrative and, look at the Ethereum market cap and thinking, oh, this should be at least 1/10 of that market cap. And I remember when I think in September 2017, that's when China banned crypto. And before that, there were multiple other exchanges other than Binance, Huobi, and OK. There were Yunbi and several other similar magnitude, similar size exchanges, and they all decided to kind of shut down. And Huobi, OK, and several other smaller ones decided to stay. What made I guess Huobi different from other exchanges at the time that they weren't like really affected, or were they affected by the Chinese bans?
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, to answer one of the things that you just brought up, which is very interesting, is those grandfather coins still currently trading at a high total market cap. That's a myth to me as well. It's very surprising. I dealt with, for example, in 2018, I dealt with actually one of them. It's the Ripple XRP, which has a lot of regulatory issues to list in the US market. And surprisingly, they have, those coins have amazing support group. Even though on a technological sense, I feel, some of these projects overpromise a bit, but the support, of the Cardano, the Ripple, some of the other layer one projects, it really goes far beyond imagination. And that just shows the amount of people out there that are supporting the project. They don't necessarily actually need to know what is the underlying technology. They just, treat it, that just also means that a lot of projects were able to promote their tech without having to dive too deep into the nitty gritties, and you can instantly get a lot of supporters. Maybe that's also why the meme coins do so well these days, right? You even know there's not much tech underneath, but you can still get supporters that kind of become part of your tribe, which is fairly incredible. In terms of the Huobi's competitiveness, it's always been operations. I think the operational excellence of the team at Huobi, the way they, when I talk about operations, it's about listing projects as well as promoting them and gain a large following, and that's always been at a very high level, and that's also why they were able to compete against other exchanges at such a high level. And even though they got wrecked a few times through the regulatory changes over the years. China banned, a few times already. Almost every year there's a China ban. But over time, I think they were able to really kind of turn that into their favors sometimes, right? See some of these projects that they listed, Tron, for example, lost a lot of, they were able to return the private sale investors' money, and which in turn reduced sell volume, and that became an advantage, right? So was able to actually have a turnaround effect on the exchange, which also bring up even more volume later on.
And one thing is that Huobi didn't launch HT token back then, but Binance did. Since inception, they have the BNB token as a way to, fee reduction, and then they launched
transaction fees,
and then but Huobi did that, I think, in 2020
after 19, I think, 19.
Okay,
I think it's like late 18, 19.
Okay, and was that also due to regulation?
I think that's a playbook that they saw how it really worked to Binance's favor, and it was seen as a secret weapon that got Binance a lot of volume. So they were convinced eventually that this is something that they want to emulate, which many other exchanges also emulated, including OKX, including many other exchanges. So it became a default way for exchanges to operate.
And like nowadays, Huobi is very different, right? The original founder, Leon, has sold his stake, and as an ex-Huobi, do you see that there's major changes of, I guess, in terms of operation or branding during the time you're at Huobi and now?
100%. It's a very different regime now. It's led by a different crew. It's led by Justin now. Back in the day, the original crew, followed by Leon, has been running things in a different way. So I mentally feel like this is a very, very different company now.
Okay.
And it's run very differently. I see opportunities there, also, because previously, I think Leon was a bit hand-tied because of the political reasons, regulations in China. So, he wasn't able to really, do things, to the, the way that he wanted to. But now led by, Justin's team, I think they have more leeway now. So they're coming up with these programs where the registrants can have, a new passport. I mean, like a digital passport somewhere else in the Caribbean. This will enable more, users. Hopefully this could be a way for, Huobi to regain a lot of the lost users. So that's, the positive side of it. Whereas the negative side of it is, again, like I said, Huobi's excellence, the competitiveness, really came from the operational excellence. The people at Huobi really know how to, drive the operation side of things. But, the people that, Justin brings in, I don't know if they can learn that know-how, because having worked, at an exchange, on the operational level, I know how hard it is. It's very, very challenging. It's almost, impossible to replicate. So I don't know if the new team will be able to gear up and repeat what was done, from the earlier days at Huobi.
Yeah. And, for the past few months, ever since I think Justin kind of publicly announced that he's helping Huobi as an official advisor, I don't think he has ever said he's kind of the owner, even though everyone's kind of speculating he is the shadow owner. Is that the case? Is he an actual owner, or?
I have, I'm just hearing, a lot, from the internal sources that I know, that, he's the one driving. And also he, owns a good chunk of the company. I think the way he's driving this forward on social media, almost indicates that he's, the by de facto leader. So, and also I know that there's, chatterings of, him being these leadership meetings, right? So I think based on the information that I know, that people report to him and see him as a head figure.
Yeah. And there's definitely been a lot more, I guess, quote unquote, degen way of running things. I think the biggest one was Pi Network, which, for the longest time been considered kind of like a, not really Ponzi, but just a kind of weird phone mining, advertisement. You can turn on advertisement, you can turn on, but it was kind of it's a controversial token. And then even so, when Huobi listed, it became a huge thing because Pi was never listed anywhere. And they publicly announced that they did not allow Huobi, or they didn't, work with them to list their own token. And it was listed, and Pi total circulating supply is 100 billion. And it was trading at $300. So it became the
$300
per Pi token,
and at 10 billion token,
100 billion.
100 billion. So it's 3 trillion.
Yeah. And
Total
it became the biggest token ever.
It's probably more than Bitcoin.
It's more than Bitcoin. And they say it's an IOU, and people cannot deposit that token. They cannot deposit their Pi, and they cannot withdraw the Pi that they buy on Huobi. What's your take on that?
Honestly, I didn't know so much about it, but now I know more. I think this is it shows two things. One, this new team at Huobi, really, is trying the marketing chops that they had previously. It shows that they want to make a big splash, which is good in some sense. In crypto, there is a saying, no news is bad news. In that case, they did, capture a lot of eyeballs. But on the other hand, I feel like, whatever goes up is going to come down. I bet you this Pi token, I think it's already dropped a lot. Probably it did damage to, not only the retail users, but also, the reputation of the platform to some degree. So I think, it probably would be better to, list, some more technically, reputable and less so, promotional or Ponzi type of projects in order to regain reputation and also trust from the community, right?
Yeah. So, there are different views about it. There's definitely a whole part of it is the kind of the negative impact, but some people even call it, Justin like a marketing genius, because Pi has apparently has around 10 million user, and many of them are just clicking, the button every day, and they get some Pi token. Click to earn, exactly. And it's been around since 2019, and so that brought a lot of user to Huobi. And there's also, like today, there was some rumor on Twitter where user that bought Pi when they got listed on Huobi, it was listed at 1 cent. So there are some user that bought it, like they bought 1,000 Pi, which was at peak was worth around 1.5 mil, and they spent like $10, $50. It was some bug within the API, and their account got banned. And I think one guy sent his funds to Binance and then also got freeze. So that became a hot topic on Twitter today, where users are accusing, Huobi for not allowing people to buy before them. So they're basically saying that, okay, they listed at a really low price and just buy everything and then wait till retail to come by. And then we can see like random wells start dumping. And the reason why this is weird is like what we said earlier, you cannot deposit Pi token. There are no Pi token, original Pi token on Huobi. But Huobi has over, I think, $1 billion worth of volume for the past few week when Pi got listed. But yeah, I guess that's kind of like what you said, there's the positive impact that the new team brings. And there's also kind of the negative side of stuff where these type of pump and dump could hurt a lot of retails.
Yeah, it feels like, the new team is really good at coming up with some marketing ploy. But at the same time, what works for a, promotion of a layer 1 project, has less consequences than when you now operate an exchange, where you'll be more scrutinized on the consequences. Yeah. Whereas, you are dealing with people's money because you're an operator of an exchange. So, a better way maybe to do, like, early days of Binance, I think they were, able to list some really credible, great, altcoin projects. Mm. And, at that time was really becoming the best altcoin market, for as a new exchange. That would be a more consistent way, a better way of, building out a name for yourself, especially you're coming out from a disadvantaged situation, market shares taken out by new players now in the market to rebuild trust. And I think trust is a big thing that needs to be restored in the market through this current bear market now. One hope here is that the exchange landscape changes so fast. Yeah. Huobi itself has gone through these phases of being the king to, somewhat not that great, and then came back, and then, not that good again. And other exchanges simply disappear, like, the FTX of the world. And Binance is now the biggest, but, things can change again if something happens. So hopefully this new team are able to learn from, some of the, mistakes that they make and then steer this to a better direction. I hope that, more Chinese New Year users can come back to Huobi. Yeah. I hope Huobi can be great again. Let's see.
Yeah. And, you brought up FTX, and I think that's like a major reason why there's so many uncertainty in the market right now, because FTX was kind of the top 2 exchanges, the small brother that's kind of fighting over the big brother Binance, and Binance was one of their biggest investor, kind of brought FTX up, and FTX collapse now also create new standard in the crypto market where exchanges are starting to have these transparency report, proof of reserve, third-party auditing, and now there are many tools and chatbot and notification that tracks these exchanges wallets. And for example, today alone, we're just doing a video about Huobi, and there was around $100 million worth of outflow minus, and then some of them went to Binance, and then some just left. And I think since some of the online analysis were saying that they tracked Justin's wallet, and there were over $1.5 billion that's been withdrawn,
from his wallet,
and their USDT, BUSD, USDC to Paxo and Circle. So most likely he cashed out, but we don't know. So and like I said, because of FTX, all these these rumors, these speculation are very real, right? Especially what we're seeing right now with Grayscale, DCG, Genesis, Gemini, EARN program. It seems like it's so hard to restore trust, and it's hard to say how many of these exchanges are running on fraction of reserve, and potentially, most likely not 100% back. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, these type of murmur, these news are a daily occurrence now, right? It's almost hard to filter which ones are true, which ones are not true, because we're not sure the intention of some of these news. What's their incentive, behind some of these news? For example, the recent Binance FUD. Also, I heard many different stories, and obviously I've seen the wallets being drained, but I've also heard these are started by some folks with different intentions. And same thing now with the Huobi thing today. I also heard from two sides. There's two stories that I'm presented here. So it's good and bad. It's good in a way that it's now finally, people now have seen what's unthinkable, like the FTX of the world, which people did not think it was ever possible to be a fallen angel, right? People didn't think FTX will ever fail. Like, even the FTX people that I talked to, their employees didn't think that FTX, can fall. Now this is creating a new set of standards for exchanges to operate. You better not touch customers' funds. Like, this is not a casino. You should not touch customers' funds. It's good. I think it will help exchanges set up with higher standards. However, there's two problems. One is that it's really hard to do this proof of reserve because there's also proof of liabilities. And secondly is that it's also very hard to believe the rumors out there, because nowadays it's pretty easy to start rumor. And the wallets that's being tracked, like you said, who knows what they actually belong to, right? We don't know if that wallet really, believe me, is really owned by Justin Sun. It's really hard to say by 100% accuracy that all those information that you see on Twitter are true. It's fairly easy now to start a flooding campaign and drive some kind of consequences, in a short time period. Over time, eventually it gets cleaned out, but this is also creating a lot of noise for the exchanges to run, as well as for retail users as well, because they have to keep shuffling their funds now out of an exchange between the wallet and then back in the exchange. So I think these are the problems that we see will go on for a little while until people start to build up trust again, which is the biggest problem. Like you said, the singular biggest challenge currently is lack of trust, which causes lack of liquidity, which again further fuel this death spiral of limited liquidity being shuffled around into different wallets.
Okay. And do you think it's correct for exchange to hold, 100%. Like when a user deposits 1 Bitcoin, they should hold that 1 Bitcoin for them and they cannot use it. Because if we look at, for example, how bank works, right? They work on a cash reserve where, if you deposit cash, they can use those to generate more revenue and so on. And, there are different laws and regulation around that, but it's usually lower than 100%, sometimes even at 10% cash reserve. Do you think crypto exchange should run differently, or because now they're kind of requiring these exchanges to hold 100% instead of fractional reserve, which that's what banks are doing.
I think given the current market, what had transcended in the market, and what's out there right now, the information that we know, I think all the exchanges should operate to that standards, because that's also what the consumers.
The 100% standard.
Yeah. I think 100%. If I'm a consumer, I would want that.
Yeah.
Like I don't want an exchange to play with my money. And do you think that you would be okay with a casino start to take 50% of your funds to play some roulette?
I mean, it's hard to say though, because, when I deposit money into, a Taiwanese bank, right? They will take that money to, buy bonds or do whatever investment that banks do. And because there are, I guess government behind it that can become kind of the referee here to kind of build them out. But also this comes to a bigger picture of how countries operate, right? They rely so much on these banks to utilize, people's money. And people rely on them. That's why, in some country you can't even keep cash. It's considered illegal, right? There are ways that they can say, oh, why you have so much cash? And so many people don't believe in banks, right? But at the same time, because of those regulation, banks are always playing on fire, right? They're always leveraging. That's why many smaller banks are failing. Bigger banks are just too big to fail. We're seeing in Credit Suisse, a lot of other big banks. But now exchanges, because they don't have government support, because they're always kind of operating in the gray area in a way that they're against centralization, against, regulation. And that's why they have to follow these high standards. But also because of that, they probably generate, I guess, less income. I guess in a bear market, but in bull market, they must generate a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, I think you just outlined some of these reasons exactly, why it shouldn't be, it should be 100% backed, because one, crypto is a very risky assets, and it's already shown that, this, can essentially go to zero because of, the bad actors in the market. It's very high risk. It's much, much higher risk than in the bonds, the treasury, bills and stuff like that in the traditional system. And secondly is that we don't know who are on the investment committee to reinvest your money. Like at the bank, you would think that there is some board of trustees, there's some, board oversight that really, controls the, the risk level where the money is getting, put into, and it's much more long-term. But in exchanges, in a matter of days, you can see a very negative outcome, and you don't know who are on the other side of the committee that's, putting your money into different buckets, different pools. So you don't know the governance structure of the committee that's using your funds. And as a consumer, I don't feel comfortable not knowing the structure of the committee and where they're going to put my funds into. And thirdly is regulatory. I don't think exchanges from a regulatory standpoint should be like a bank. As a consumer, and also for the health of a long-term survival of an exchange, I think it should be 100% backed by, collateral. So exchange, that's main business. I think, Binance actually itself, that's a very good strategy, actually. I think CZ, understands that's the core business. So we better not mess with our core business. Everything around exchanges, the chain, the other investments done on different type of projects that's going to come up, as well as some other activities around the incentive program they're running. All of that's like good to have. Yeah. But the core bread and butter of Binance is the exchange business. Yeah. And so he understands that better not be played with, right? Don't want to play with fire. So I think they're doing the right thing by keeping the reserve there and backing the customer funds and not taking away from the customer's funds.
Yeah. I think you're right. Especially, banks that are not buying stadiums, right? Like FTX, where they buy the naming rights of a stadium and spending money on things that are more of a venture investment than like a treasury bonds, right?
I feel like they're really on a different level of just, playing with customer money on steroids. I think they probably were under the impression that, by doing this promotion with Tom Brady or putting the logo on the stadium, they're able to attract more customers. So in that case, there's more customer funds to now use to get more, to attract more, billboard campaigns. So it's like they feel like they figured out this awesome, playbook. Yeah. And that's how they had almost unlimited, marketing expenses. Where from what I heard at Binance, they were very cautious about above the line in expenses. And these, marketing and billboards, celebrity endorsements, these are all above the line. And I don't think Binance does as, fractionally, as much at all with FTX. It's a different philosophy. So that's also stemmed from the way, the casino is operated. The FTX casino is operated on the assumption that we can use customer funds as our operating expenses. So they have a lot more budget to play with. Where Binance, looks like their philosophy is customer money is a different bucket. We're going to use our profit from trading activities to do promotions. So obviously, it's a lot less aggressive.
And what do you think, like, the FTX case, where some of the biggest name in the venture or even the fund business, they have Thomas from Singapore, Sequoia, China, Sequoia India. I'm not sure about Sequoia India, but they have all the big brands, some national funds to back them when there are obviously no misdemeanor and fraud, messing with commingling funds, all these things that has been happening since, probably 2020 or 2021, and still they back them and invest in them.
You're saying that they actually know there's commingling before they pull the trigger on investing, or this is after the fact? I
mean, I don't know if they know or if they even spend time to look at it.
I don't think they even spend much time at all. I think it was a demonstration of two things. One is the delusion of the market, where we were before in the cycle. It was insane. It was, this greed, insanity of, abundance in the market that just drove these irrational activities. That's one reason. And secondly is, it's just I think it's just because they're distracted by this herd mentality, and that's a very dangerous thing. When you have, one investor that is committed for whatever reason, big name that said yes, the other big investors simply just ignore it. It's driven by FOMO. Yeah. So then the herd mentality really drove a lot of these activities where indicates there's no diligence on the round. And also I think that another reason here is FTX he understands how investor psychology works, and the timeline that he put in, and I read from different sources that he put in these deadlines, and he understands how to play the fundraising game. And that's also when all these reasons add together, and that's how you have a FTX fundraising that scenario. It's very I don't think we'll ever see that again, because I think that that time frame that we saw last couple of years, that's never going to happen again. That amount of abundance on the market, we'll never ever see that again in our lifetime. And secondly, I think these investors, and some of them are incredible big names, legacy names in the market, have already been hurt not just once but twice. Some of these names came in 2017 also and got hurt, and then they went back out of crypto, and then they came back in again, and then again got hurt. So fool me once, it's fool me twice, it's on you. Okay, and they fool me 3 times, so they're not going to come back again for a long time. So next time, when there's another FTX, SBF raising funds, they're going to run a full process no matter what.
Yeah. But, I feel like this type of FOMO happens in every bull market, like every cycle.
You're saying we're going to see this. Yeah, well, I think from a retail level, yes, we're going to see this again in a different form, maybe like DeFi 3.0 now, or like NFT 2.0, however it is. It's going to be another boom and bust cycle, because the retail's expectation on technology is always much higher than what the technology really can accomplish, always, every time. Yeah. But from a VC committee standpoint, I think next time when a deal is on the table, at least one person from that team is going to be rational enough to say, hey, is this FTX again? So because they run a process, I think the chance of this type of behavior happening from a professional, institutional capital allocator standpoint is going to be much more unlikely.
I agree, some part of it, because when I see some of the project back in 2020, right, there are funds that do a lot of due diligence and they miss out. And then when the bull market came, they're like,
then the greed took over.
Yeah,
and then they're YOLO. Okay,
yeah.
Then those are the ones that never
and
made money.
A lot of them were turned into big names too, and because project also became greedy too. They were like, you're taking your time. Okay, I got 10 other guys on the line that want to come in, and that happens over and over again. Especially when we look at the size of the crypto market, it's not that big. And, the blue chips stay. And like you said, in 2017, there are projects that are big, they got wiped out. There are projects that stay. Same with this time, there's some DeFi projects that are staying and, doing strong. But then I think during the next cycle, greed might, take over again, where
always. Well, this time I think we see the damage was, the both from a balance sheet standpoint and also from an emotional wreckage standpoint. I think it's a lot worse than the last one, the 2017, 18, it was because, last time around, I think people made relatively less money.
Yeah.
But this time, a lot of people that stayed from the last cycle into this cycle made a lot of profit. Yeah. But then very quickly that, got away, either through, the Luna, the 3AC, or, the FTX, one way or the other, that your, hard-earned cash is, vaporized. And that's very hard to digest mentally. So this time around, this Asia tour that I'm doing now in Korea, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah. Dude, yeah.
It's going to take some time, but there still are a good amount of money left on the sideline, I think. So it's going to come back again. We just don't know when.
Agree. And let's move on from that topic and talk a bit about, Beacon and Symbolic Capital. So you raised Symbolic last year. How much did you raise?
We raised $50 million.
Okay. We
did that because we saw this is turning to be another bear market that, my co-founder, Sandeep Newell, who is also co-founder of, Matic, now known as Polygon, we did Binance Labs together in 2019. And that's also when, we met up also in Taiwan around that time. We did the Asia tour, surprisingly similar. It's exactly 4 years ago. And it was me, you, AK, Enjucan, it was good times, that was the building phase. And we saw how this is shaping up to be like that again, almost incredibly, identical. And we feel like, this is an opportunity for us to, back the next generation of Sandeep Newell, and the next generation of discovering, the great, projects, like Polygon, like, a lot of the ones that's around the same time in 2019, the ones that, you also invested in, we invested in, and we would be able to actually have a chance to do it all over again, this time in a more coordinated fashion. Because, after Matic and also my data projects, we have also been working with a lot of founders on the ground in a very hands-on accelerator style model. And that's also how Sandeep and I, we had this vehicle called SKIP, SKIP. It stands for Sandeep Kenzi Investment Program. And through that, we invested in, some really great founders in 2019 and early 2020 that we decided to systemize and scale this effort, not just between the two of us, but this time at a bigger scale with more institutional support as well. Last time it was just our own capital, and we couldn't scale on the staff member level. But this time around, we've been through that. We've done really well. And we can now also get institutional support as well as, hire, some team members and get some great, people to do it with us. And that's the opportunity that we see we have now with Symbolic Capital and also this Beacon Accelerator that we're doing.
And what are some, have you guys started deploying?
Yeah, we've deployed about 10% of capital out of Symbolic Capital. And for Beacon Accelerator, we are going to do our first demo day of batch 0. It's our initial batch of 15 projects in a week.
And these projects, are they, just there might be some builder and listening to this podcast. For these projects, do they have to be like, can they be anon, or does it have to be like,
Great question. Yeah, we currently have a no anon policy, mainly due to what happened over the past, half a year or so. And if, just based on the stats that we're seeing, we saw some really great DeFi founders in the earlier phase of DeFi boom. But, just looking at the past 6 months or so, we're not really confident that staying anonymous is the best way for us to hold founders accountable, because for the Beacon Accelerator, like 50% of the game is the quality of founders, and we're going to work with them very closely. And for now, we'd like them to be accountable. We want them to be accountable, not just with us, but also be accountable with the wider community.
Yeah. But do you, I guess another question I want to ask is regulation, right? Because, you and I have been through 2017, 2018, and at the time, one of the reasons why there weren't staking and locking was because of people are afraid that it might be against security law, right? Where if you're giving out dividend, if you're giving out yields, it's not allowed. So no one was doing that. Most lending protocol, Aave, we used to call ETHLend, and has these projects had no traction. SNX was called Haven, and STO came out that kind of became the default way of if you're planning to launch a DeFi token back in 2018. So I guess even right now, DeFi is a gray area where regulators are too busy focusing on the FTX, all the CeFi, Celsius, all these incident that happened in 2022. But there are also some cases around DeFi protocol. And so what's your take on, I guess, regulation right now and projects approach? Because if they're not anon, then, one way or another, regulation might come in and say, you're not considered decentralized enough. There's also a saying that a lot of these newer projects, they're trying to become like Bitcoin in a way that they want to distribute 50% of the token as soon as possible, so that's decentralized enough and would not be looked at as a centralized project.
Yeah, I think there's a couple problems here. The first one is that the ones that's the bad apples in the market, they use this regulation almost as a shield, and it became not only actually one of the reasons, but instead it became a shield. So that's being misused in that capacity. Secondly, is even if you're anon, if you did the same thing as how Celsius did or any of these protocols did that damage a lot of users, they're gonna find you anyways, right? So there are other ways, and there are if the founder is not a U.S. person, which in a lot of times it is, Synthetics. ETHLend, I think it's also not US, right? If it's not a US personnel actually doing the project, it's less likely, Uncle Sam is gonna, come find you because you're not an American. And also there are ways for you to, potentially gate your users.
Yeah.
I know some DeFi protocols did. And lastly is not every project deal with customer funds. Not every project has to be a DeFi, pool or something like that. And there may be other ways as well. There may be a DeFi, new wave. So I think these are all like things that can be thought of and mitigated. At the very minimum, they should reveal their identity to the investors. Right now, because of what happened over the past 6 months, we don't want to deal with anonymous founders right now. But as soon as there's some kind of new form or a new, type of a standard that's been adopted that we can see it works, we may consider that. It's just a reaction to the market that we just don't want to waste time right now. And also DeFi, there's not that much going on. It's not like we have 10 DeFi anon teams, doing, making like new, food protocols or, gangster protocols that we don't deal with that right now. So it's okay.
So what are the 15 protocols that you guys are in the batch 0?
Yeah, they're geographically very distributed. It's really everywhere. Protocol level wise is also fairly distributed. It's on all sorts of chains. It's on Ethereum, it's on Polygon, it's on BNB, it's on Solana. And in terms of the type of projects, it's also fairly evenly distributed amongst four criterias. We have DeFi protocols, we have an infrastructure layer one type of projects. We also have gaming NFTs, and we also have tooling. So it's fairly distributed.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Before the podcast, we talk about Bonk and these meme coins.
Actually, just learn a little bit more about it through your video.
Yeah. What do you think about meme coin? And before you answer, I think a month ago I was chatting with a big NFT marketplace founder, one of the hottest NFT marketplace right now. Not going to name the project, but he gave me a really interesting idea around meme coin. And he said that meme coin are considered to be the highest standard in crypto. And it's that you cannot find it anywhere else. I guess the last time it happened in stock market was probably GME, but his reason being is that for example, he's saying Uniswap is also a meme coin status because there's no utility for Uni token. Uniswap has a lot of value as a brand, as an exchange, but they give zero value to Uni token holder. You can hold a token, you don't really do anything. They have never done any community vote that was started by a community and got voted past. So people hold a token for speculation, right? You don't get any of the transaction fee. You get nothing from holding Uni token other than the value of the project going up. Even for the trader as well, there's already multiple, deep analysis on liquidity provider on Uni, which are constantly losing money because they cannot be compensated with Uni token because they don't get Uni token by providing liquidity on Uni. But that being said, because Uni has achieved the meme coin status, which is, per his standard, it's the highest standard for a crypto project. That's why, they don't have to care about it, and they will always exist. V1 still has around 10 million TVL, V2 has around 1 billion, V3 same, and the same thing when we look at Doge and Sheep. Once you achieve the meme status, that's the highest you can get in crypto. And another thing we chatted about meme status is that once you reach there, it means you reach decentralization. And the reason for that is because no one cares about it anymore because people won't have too much expectation about it. And then same with Sheep and Doge, that you don't need to constantly innovate. And then kind of like how Elon put it, the most unlikely thing could potentially be the most likely project to even be Bitcoin for Doge. So I guess I kind of want to hear what you think about meme coin, because you're telling me about the Polygon meme coin as well. There's meme coin everywhere, and they have, like you said, they have some unique, crazy backer, just like Ripple back in the days. No Ripple buyer uses Ripple. I don't even know. I mean, I've been doing these shows for years. I've never used Ripple. I know there are use cases.
You didn't use it for remittance of a cross-border transaction. How dare you?
All right, I'll set up an account. Where do I start? But yeah, man, I just think that's something that only exists in crypto, and that's kind of like a magic,
It's not only existing in crypto. It's the same thing as the GameStop. GME. GME meme.
Pat.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, there's no difference. There's some truth to what this person said about the standard. Basically, it's the same thing as what you said earlier. The first question that you had for me was about these old projects, old coins that reach meme status. Why do they have such a high market cap? That's the reason, why. It's because they've reached this cult, status. That's a standard that, this person is saying, right? Basically, it just means that, you're promoting this Kool-Aid, and a lot of people drank this Kool-Aid, and they, they become part of the cult, right? And once you have that, it's very hard to go away. There's some truth to it. But I'm not sure about agree with the decentralization because, projects like Cardano, like Ripple, they're still fairly centralized. They can move. Like one of these project founders can come out and, move this 50% if they want to. Decentralized, from a community standpoint, but, when it comes to a ownership, concentration, there's no evidence that, these are fully decentralized. Like this bonk thing, we don't know how much the project, team have. They may have, I just heard that the 50% they gave out, there's like 3 Solana people that have, a ton of these tokens, right? Something
they gave
like
out to some weird project.
Right. So that's not decentralized. If one of the 3 people that got the airdrop dump the coin, this price will be impacted.
Well, I guess Bonk is a meme token, but it's not the high standard meme token.
It's a low standard. It's a low standard dog coin. Yes.
But I guess another.
But isn't that for everything? I feel like that's like every crypto project, right? It's true for every crypto project. Is that, in a way, is that you are promoting the technology. There needs to be underlying technology, but at the same time, you're also building a community, and you need to do both. It's just that sometimes, the building is lacking. And, this promotion seems to overtake. And that's a very sad thing for the crypto industry because of the misalignment of incentives. And that's why we see tons of these layer ones. And, in the future, we're going to see tons of even more infrastructure projects that became the same stories as some of these older projects that just became stale. The people that are responsible for coming up with the vision, initial tech, simply just got so well off that they stopped caring. And then it creates this, this problem of mismatching of building and promotion. Then the promotion, this meme effect became much greater over time. That itself just became a meme. There's no more tech behind it.
I have one last question. So, and this goes back to FTX and Huobi and all these like shenanigans. So, with proof of reserve, right? We don't know who owns these wallets, and you were one of the core people doing the Huobi operation. Can you tell us a bit about wallet management or is that like a secret society?
I'm not a core person. I'm not responsible. No, I'm just kidding. No, but I think when I was there, the standard is very different. There's no such Fireblock setup. There's no gold standard yet. At that time, it's a very I no comment on that. But there's a very different setup at that time, and because tech is also wasn't there yet, so you can't really blame on blame on people. We were at the time this industry was so new. Even the multisig that was created initially, the nodes, even themselves got hacked. So then how do you convince people to actually use it? It takes a lot of time to actually believe in it, right? To see enough trial and error. And, the way of things that was operating when I was there is very different, back then. But I'm sure now there are new ways. But when it comes to standards, I'm not so sure that there is a gold standard for exchange multi-sig management yet. It's a very touchy subject, and there should be, because it's necessary for the exchanges to prove that there's enough accountability and governance around the customer and also the exchange treasury.
Yeah, I mean, when I listen to these rumors and people telling me things about exchanges, one of the common problem with exchanges and with projects, even for projects that manage their treasury, is there's usually like a single point of failure. For example, for projects, they raise $10 million, $5 million. Often it's the co-founder or one of the founder that holds the key, and then decided to, okay, I'll put these stablecoin and Luna on Anchor. There were a lot of conversation leak that show that there were many projects that were just put in UST because UST was a stable coin and they earned 22%. They don't have to build anything and they make $2 million from the $10 million that they raised in a year. There are many projects that would, put on FTX. And I guess FTX is a little bit better than Luna at the time. But then it just shows that, in crypto, there are so many of these, I guess, little control around funds. And same for exchanges, founders might not be working so closely to the engineer that are controlling these multi-sigs, these custodial wallets. And you could put a line of code that gives you access to the wallet, and that became a loophole. And I feel like that's one of the main reasons why a lot of these exchange owners are not sleeping well, because they think about who and who has control of the wallet. And then to a point that you have different engineers that potentially, and then you hire new guys, and then the old guy go. It just seems like, and back then I didn't believe it, and it seems like that is especially with the FTX case. There's a top exchange, and there was a loophole. The day they say they're going bankrupt, the dude took away $600 million worth of token.
Do we know who this person is?
Well, he sent some money to this other guy at Kraken, and then they thought that was a dude. But then I don't know if that's a guy, but I don't think so, because there's still money being moved. And that loophole been around. And then it was almost like a fail-safe that, when shit goes down, I'm just going to turn that on. Takes everything.
Yeah. I think that's also exactly why exchanges should try to, have, backings for, a customer funds, right? That's exactly why, if you deposit money to an exchange, you wouldn't want your money to be lost through a loophole of some kind. And you don't want, the, exchange to have a key person, a key man failure, like, a single point of failure with your funds in some way. This is it's a concern for many projects, not just exchanges, not just, VC funds, but also just across the board. A lot of DeFi protocols, recently there's another one that got, hacked, starts with an A. And that's another insider job.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff is very, it's an indictment of just how early we are in this industry. It just shows that many things can go wrong, not just, human motives, but also the tech.
Yeah.
Itself, a lot of stuff can go wrong. And, it also shows how the, in terms of a, incentive alignment, the governance side of things, crypto industry is so lacking. Like when it comes to a venture-backed project that did a proper financing from VCs, there's no way you can just use your, investor money to now put onto Luna or, lend it to 3AC or give it to Genesis.
Yeah.
There's no way you can do that because you need to get board approval.
Yeah.
Crypto projects have no board.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that we see in addition to this, founder incentive alignment problem for some of these, layer one projects that in the last cycle, doing things, differently now because the founders already got so well off. Another thing here that we're dealing with in the crypto investment space is this lack of, governance, and there's no standards for, fixing that right now, unless you have a concerted efforts where you have a lot of founders that, buy into this together and create a standard together. That's kind of what Y Combinator did, YC did back in the day. But there's no such effort around in the crypto space about fixing some of these standards.
Yeah.
And, this should be fixed.
Agree. So where are you going next?
I'm gonna stick around in Asia for a little bit.
Okay.
And then gradually make my way to, the US.
Okay. Awesome.
It's very profound experience for me to see on the ground how much has changed over the years. That's number one.
Yeah.
From 3-4 years ago, and secondly, just see how much damage FTX has and Luna 3AC has done across the board in these countries. Just yesterday I saw 3 project founders telling me that they lost treasury money on FTX, which is very, very sad.
Yeah. Agree. And, I think the storm is just starting, and 2023, like a lot of founders just say, bear market building, but I feel like many of them using it kind of like an excuse right now where they're just hoping that investor don't ask about their treasury.
Yeah. They need to come up with some ways. There needs to be some kind of concerted effort on, I don't think these founders are bad personnel. I don't think, I think the intention always initially had been, how do we extend runway? I think for the most part. Yeah. I'd say, 80% of these founders, wanted to extend the runway for the team members. It's unfortunate that, bad stuff happened, that, now they have to do other things. For example, they have to do consulting now. They have to pivot their product or maybe do a new project, while maintaining the previous project, and then use a new project to, fund the old project. Lots of stuff that's going to happen. But eventually, this is also a filtering system that, where the best people will be able to rise to the top. The 5%, top 5 percentile of founders would find a way to survive no matter what. And they would have a comeback in the next cycle.
Yeah. Do you know the name of the podcast?
Down bad.
Yeah. So how bad are you down?
I think everyone's down. I'm down not so bad.
Okay.
I didn't have any damage from this, the 3AC, the Luna, this FTX. But I did have holdings, as everyone does. We're long-term believers of, some of these major coins, as well as the projects that I invested in before. Some of them shot up, 1,000x. Now it's down, 70-80%. But still okay, they're still holding up. So on the absolute value level from my peak, I'm down. Not so bad, but down for sure. But it's still way up from where I entered.
All right. That's way better than me already. But yeah, so glad that you're here, Kenzi, and then, sharing these. And I just want to remind the listener that, cryptocurrency investment is super high risk. So if you don't understand, please don't touch anything said today. It's not a financial advice. And yeah, really glad you're coming here, Kenzi.
Thank you so much.
All right, cool. That's a wrap.
Awesome.
然后，如果你今天在 YouTube 上看的话，请帮我订阅，然后把小铃铛点开，你就不会错过下一集。谢谢这个transition。如果你觉得今天直播你有学到新的东西，也帮我把影片给分享出去。区块现在的每日直播是每周一、每周三、每周五呢都会讲最新的区块链新闻，然后各种加密货币跟去中心化金融 DeFi。我们明天见，拜拜。